Hey everyone, I'm really excited to talk about this stuff with you because we've been talking about similar things for quite a while. Just to get started, like why? I mean, we're at the stablecoin event. Like why are stablecoins so important from like a rollup perspective?
Yeah. So, as a quick context, we are at Status. We're working on a new L2. And that L2 is natively gasless. So there's literally no gas on the L2. It's all replaced by a reputation-based system. And we also allow people to shield their assets natively and earn yields on those shielded assets. Now, the question we get all the time is like, oh, so if the rollup doesn't charge gas fees, how do you make money? Like, how do you actually operate the rollup? Well, we started to think about the business model of rollups about like a year and a half ago by observing how, like, which rollup were actually profitable. And can anyone know here, like, how many rollups are profitable at the moment? 3? No, not even 3. 2. Basically based on Arbitrum. And that's it. That's it. Everyone else is losing money. And why? Because gas fees are going to zero, and you need to have massive volume just to make up for the fees to operate the network. And so we looked at that problem, be like, okay, so we can't do it as other rollups do. So what alternatives do we have? And so we started like thinking about like, okay, as a new network, how do we, kickstart the growth of the network, the liquidity, and so on. And one of the first, I think, clear view was, well, we need to have a native yield. We need to have the rollup being able to have assets that earn yield and bridge that yield to the L2 and use that yield to basically operate the L2. And this is where stablecoins come in. Because for us, originally, we didn't have any stablecoin plan. It was like, yeah, we're just going to use, I don't know, bridged USDC or anything like that. But the moment you adopt a non-yield-bearing stablecoin, you're basically leaving money on the table, because someone else is earning yield on your deposited TVL. And so this is where we started talking with Aragon initially on, hey, so we have that idea, we have some bridged stable coins, what can we do with them? And I think it's a good segue for you to kind of introduce a bit the idea behind it.
Yeah, so as Aragon, we've worked with a lot of projects and so Aragon traditionally was doing governance. Over the past 2 years, we started doing a lot more tokenomics and value accrual because the governance cop out of like, why would anyone hold this token? We saw that that's going to be a dying theme, and we started pivoting more towards like, okay, well, like, what is something that is actually valuable that you can give token holders control over? And the inevitable answer there is capital flows. So we've been building a lot of gauge systems and VE systems, and we're gonna get into like how Karma works as well. But the thing is, like, for a lot of teams, this was, like we have this inflation schedule and we're gonna just be pumping incentives out, and token holders are gonna decide on where these incentives go, which is kind of a like it's a down only design, right? Like because you're just paying people to come use your network with something that the only thing it does is control where the inflation goes. And there was this demand of like, okay, well, how does a network make money? Where does the revenue come from? And that's how we started looking at, okay, well, there's idle assets that sit in a bridge. Can we do something about it? Because generally, networks do pay for people to hold assets on them. Something that is increasingly getting phased out as well is networks were just paying for people to just hold assets there to pump a vanity TVL metric. And like Status is doing some interesting stuff to avoid that sort of like dead weight that other projects have been paying for. But by the way, I'm actually surprised that Arbitrum is making money because they are spending a lot of incentives as well. So it's good to know that there is like a second project that is making money.
They just have a massive amount of volume.
So maybe you can chat a bit like how is Status sort of making the liquidity more productive and concentrating it.
So this is part of if you want to do it at a theoretical level, it's basically Curve and applied to a wall chain. And so for those here that are not familiar with Curve, it was kind of the OG protocol that started thinking about gauges and how to incentivize liquidity in specific pools and to have more concentrated liquidity there. And the way the gauges work is people vote on where the rewards are going to go. The problem with Curve was that the rewards were made in their own CRV token. And so they had like a whole system to then lock up the token and so on, so that there is no, like not everyone is just dumping all the time. But what happened, I mean, just look at the token, people have been dumping because they receive incentives that are just governance tokens and they just dump it right away. So we look at it from a network perspective, and the way we think about it now is we need to have deep liquidity on the network. We need to have incentivized liquidity, but SNT has been our token has been around for 8 years or more. So it's not like we can just dump some SNT on everyone and be like, hey, come to the L2 and you'll see it's fun. Because we know that this is a net negative for the token. Ultimately it's a net negative for the network. So taking it on the other side was like, how can we provide a yield that is not in a governance token, but that's actually in ETH and a stablecoin?
I'm going to double click on the stablecoin. So basically everyone is doing a TBO wrapper, which I think is just boring, but also like the yield on that is going to go down as the Fed lowers the rates, and you decided to go with something that's natively on chain. Why is that important for you? Like what? How did you go through the trade-offs of like, do I want like a natively on-chain asset? Do I want a TBO wrapper? Because like the TBO wrapper is much easier to explain to people as well. So there are some trade-offs. So how have you thought about those?
Yeah. So the problem with the T-bill wrapper is, I think there's a couple of problems. The first one is, as you mentioned, we are basically based on the rates of the US treasuries. So they're going down now, so your yield is going down and you have literally nothing else to do. It's like you're a passive actor here. Second problem is with everything that is going in the US, with the Genius Act and so on, you need to make sure that your wrapper is actually compliant. And then that adds a lot of kind of overweight and like management to the whole thing. Whereas if we have a stablecoin that is natively emitted on chain and that earns yield directly in a decentralized way from, in our case, it's going to go through Morpho pools, so Morpho vaults, then you don't really need to care about that. And the fact that we separated the yield from the actual coin also makes it very attractive, because it means that you can have a stablecoin that you can just use as a payment system, as a collateral, and so on. But on the other side, you can also use it to earn yield without having to do anything. So that's the cool part, I think. And you mentioned concentrated liquidity before, and I think this is something that is super interesting for us, because we have that native stablecoin that is going to come from the bridge, and that is going to leverage bridge yield. But then we have also a stablecoin that is based on a liquidity V2 fork. And that stablecoin is fully decentralized. And we think that having the capacity on the same network to have a coin that earns bridge yield and another stablecoin that is fully decentralized and have a very deep liquidity between the two unlocks a lot of new advantages for DeFi applications, mostly because of the yield differences between the two and because of the potential looping that you can do every time the rates are different.
Yeah, I think I spoke with Charlie from Felix, that is building a lot of interesting stuff on the Hyperliquid network, and it's one protocol, and they have like a Morpho fork and a liquidity fork, and I was like, aren't those cannibalizing each other? But like, there are basically different use cases and different actors, and the trade-offs look different for them, and potentially you would want to have products that meet the needs of different classes of users more directly, while not compromising and like having deep enough liquidity between the assets, making the the experience more composable and avoiding the liquidity fragmentation that the previous panel was talking about. And speaking of deep liquidity and different use cases, talk to me a bit more about privacy. Like why is it important to have a private stablecoin as like a first-class citizen on a network, and how are you achieving that?
Yeah. So we haven't talked about privacy much so far. I just mentioned.
Yeah, nobody on this conference is talking about it. It's not like only the biggest theme of the past month.
Right. So the way we handle it is we have a privacy layer that is native to the chain, and where people can basically deposit funds and then use DeFi apps regularly, as they would do with literally any like normal EOA or smart account, multi-sig or anything, but from a shielded account. And so the main issue we have from start is like, how do we make sure that the privacy set or the anonymity set is large enough? And if you look right now, you can go to shieldedeth.com. It's a new website that shows you how much ETH is shielded on the network. And it's ridiculously low. Right now, the largest protocol that is Tornado Cash has roughly $1 billion of ETH, which first of all is kind of nothing compared to the size of the ETH market cap. But second, it's mostly legacy, just like people who left it there and didn't move Joe. And it's not very active anymore. The second one is Railgun. And do you know how much Railgun has? Do you have an idea?
90 mil?
50.
Oh, shoot.
50 million. It's nothing. Like $50 million of privacy pool. It's not a good privacy. So, I mean, and they're the best in the game, right? They're like the top one right now. So we think that we can bring something new with that stablecoin approach, where one of the main reasons why people don't shield is, first, not everyone wants to shield because they are, US citizen or something. It's fine. But second is because shielding assets is not profitable. It's not easy to get yield on shielded assets, and it's not composable, meaning you can't use your shielded assets as collateral to borrow on it or to get yield on it, to lend it. This doesn't exist. So when we started thinking about the design of the stablecoin, it was very important for us that we have natively high liquidity on the chain and to concentrate that liquidity towards the privacy pool. And one of the best use we see of the native yield of the network, so the network produces native yield. So one of the best use of that yield is to incentivize people to deposit into the privacy pool. And we want to make privacy profitable, because we think that this is how people will actually get interested, not by the kind of cypherpunk or freedom arguments, but just by, hey, I'm getting a good yield, and on top of that, it's private.
Yeah, and it's I think like one of the things that we've noticed in our experience is also like you need to give people something interesting to do on a network. Like a lot of the rollups that have been coming out in the past couple of years, they're like, okay, we've raised at a pretty high valuation, we have a lot of treasury, we're just gonna like spend it on attracting users, and then they're somehow disappointed when users disappear as soon as the airdrop comes, and it's like, well, yeah, there's nothing to do on your network except farm incentives. Of course, that's like that audience is just gonna depart. So when you're enabling privacy, like how does that play into a larger context of like, okay, well, I mean, Status is going to do well, but like it's not going to be the only network, right? Like how does that work in a multi-network world? So
very interesting question, because this is, of course, when launching an L2, there was a joke like last year, which is, hey, it's like, oh, they broke into my car and they left another L2 in it. That's like the whole meme around. They didn't take anything, they just left ETH and an L2. So that was the main issue. Like, there's a lot of L2s in the market, and other networks, of course, other L10s ones, and etc. So how do you attract liquidity that sticks around? And we think that first, having those privacy pools is a very sticky mechanism. Once you're in it, you want to stay. I mean, privacy is literally a function of time spent in the pool. That's it. That's literally like the best you can do is stay there and do stuff. So most of the privacy pools don't allow you to do stuff. So you have nothing to do there, and at some point you will just withdraw. Here the idea is that you can actually have your whole DeFi experience from the privacy pool. Now, where we see a very interesting use case is because we have a network that is natively gasless.
15 seconds.
We want to enable solvers to basically use the network as a jumping board to go to other network, leveraging the privacy pool, the yielding stablecoins and ETH into that privacy pool, and the gasless transactions, meaning they can do gasless interop between different chains, ultimately meaning you will be able to have shielded bridging or private bridging.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much for this chat. It was way too short, but still insightful.
Thank you, Ivan.